Hi, welcome to the Online Jewelry Academy. I'm Professor John Ahr, and I'm your instructor. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about mixing concrete for jewelry. Now, some of you are going, concrete? But concrete is a really cool material that's used by a lot of contemporary jewelers in place of stone or in addition to stone. Now, if you look right here, you can see examples of the concrete that I've been working with. This is a quick set expansion concrete. And here it is in its natural form, sort of a neutral gray. Here I've added India ink to the water that I mixed it with to produce this really deep gray, and I've captured a CZ or cubic zirconia in the material. Down below, I actually used something that's already on your bench, yellow ochre, to color this one. But yellow ochre doesn't completely dissolve, and you don't want to really mix material into the powder. So a good substitute would be to work with gouache. Gouache is an opaque watercolor that will mix easily into the water and give your concrete a nice color. Let me show you some of the tools and supplies that you're going to need to do this. Now first you're going to need something to mix the concrete with, and here I'm just using regular old popsicle sticks that you can get at any hobby supply. Next, I've got a set of measuring spoons because, like baking, you have to be really exact with the measurements in order for this to work. Now, I've also got a device right here. This is a little dropper that's used to give babies medicine. You can get this at the pharmacy, and it has markings on it that will help you to use exactly the right amount of fluid to mix with your concrete. Okay, I also have a little paring knife, and the reason why I have that is because when I'm done casting the concrete, while it's still a little bit damp, while it's set and workable, I want to be able maybe to trim off little pieces that I don't like. Okay, I've also got some mixing cups. Here I've got just little bathroom paper cups. This is the India ink that I was telling you about. If you don't have some of that in your supplies, you can get it at any art supply store. Now, I'm going to secure my CZ using something called museum wax. And if you don't live in earthquake country, you might have never heard of this before, but it's great for just securing things with just a little bit of material. All right, so I've also got my water reservoir right here because I'm going to need to have clear water to mix into the concrete. And then over here, I've got the silicone mold that I'm going to be using to make my sample. And I've put it on top of a plastic, easy to clean mixing tray. I also have over here a back massager, not because I get stressed out and tense doing this, but because when you run the massager for just a few seconds and cause a vibration on the area that you're working, it can knock some of the air bubbles loose and bring them up and let them escape out in the material. Now don't forget, this can be hazardous to your health. So when you do this, you do want to wear a dust mask, because the concrete could actually set in your lungs, which is not a good thing. But for the sake of you being able to hear me in this video, I'm going to forego it and risk it for you. Also, you may want to put on a pair of eye protection because you never know, and it's always good to work safe or safely. Good grammar counts too. All right, so let me show you how to do it. The first thing that I want to do is get 2 mixing cups ready. Now one is going to be for my fluid and the other is going to be for my dry material, just like baking. Next I'm going to pick up my mixing spoons, and I've done some experiments and I've determined that a tablespoon to 4 milliliters of fluid works out well. So what you want to do is you want to put a level tablespoon, and here I'm going to use my knife, just like a baker, to give myself an even scoop. And I'll put that into one of my mixing cups. All right, now I've predetermined from my experiments that about 4 milliliters of water is best with this amount of concrete to get a really nice even batch of material. So I'm going to fill up the baby dropper. There we go. And I'm going to just release some fluid back until I have my 4 milliliters on the register there. All right, so I'll just set this down for now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the India ink to my mixing container. And again, I experimented, and I know that about 16 drops gives me that color gray. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let me refill. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that ought to do it. It's important to mix the colorant into the fluid because you want it evenly distributed throughout the entire mix. Okay, now before I go any further, I just want to talk about one little detail. When you're working on your project, you really want to get the material to set evenly. So this is why I'm using the mixing tray. I can use a cell phone with a leveling app on it to make sure it's level, but if it's not, something else you can pick up at the hardware store would be these wooden shims, and you could just stick them underneath your tray in order to get a really level surface so that things set up perfectly. Okay, let's mix the material. I'll take one of my sticks. And the interesting thing about this material is you just need it to hydrate, okay? So I'm going to pour in the liquid. Now, if you find that it's not giving you the right consistency, add liquid a drop at a time, just a small amount. And you can see all I'm doing is I'm just trying to get it wet. That's the important thing at this point, is just trying to put all of the concrete material in contact with the fluid. Now, believe it or not, one thing that's kind of interesting is if you just wait a few seconds and let the material catch up to you, it actually has a better flow. Okay, so I'm going to set that down for just a second. I'm going to take my museum wax and I'm just going to put a really small amount on my fingertip. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up the cubic zirconia that I have, a lovely peridot color, and I'm going to just apply a dot of that museum wax to the top. That way it won't float away or move as I put the concrete material in. Now I want my concrete to have a little bit thinner consistency, so I'm just going to add a drop or two of water and just keep mixing it. Remember, the more water that you add, the longer it takes to set up. And this material sets in about 15 minutes, but it takes it about an hour before it realizes its full strength. And you can see I'm just like pouring this in. It's a nice thin consistency, so that should prevent me from getting any air bubbles. Okay, and I've got my stone completely submerged under the concrete, which is what I want to do. Okay, so quickly what I'll do is I'll take the vibrator and little teeny tiny air bubbles emerge. So that should give us a nice even surface when we pop this out. Remember, it takes about 15 minutes for it to set. It's still pliable and workable at that point, not at its full strength. It'll take about an hour for it to reach that point, and then it will take about a day, maybe two, to completely dry out, or at least to have the appearance of being completely dry. All right, while we're waiting, I just want to show you something. I was working with a 2-part silicone mold, and there's a video on how to work with this material. And I took a little bit of the concrete mixture, and just to show you what the mold is of, it's of this little teeny Buddha face. All right, so let me pop this out, and look at that. It's perfectly molded to it. Now, you might want to just mold small details like this and use them in your jewelry as feature elements. This could easily become a pendant. Okay, let's give this a few minutes and I'll be back to show you the results. Okay, it's been about 15 minutes and we're ready to take the piece out of the silicone mold. Now, it's set at 15 minutes, but it's not completely cured, so you do have to handle it gently at this point. But you can also work it at this point and trim away any excess that you don't want. So you could relieve the area around the stone. All right, so I'm going to turn this over and give it a stretch and a push. And here we are. Now, it doesn't look as good as the one that I've trimmed, but if I take the little paring knife and go around the stone and just rub off the wax a little bit, it'll start to look a lot better. And we'll end up with a result that looks exactly like this one, except we'll have a pretty peridot color stone. I hope you enjoyed this video. Check out the onlinejewelryacademy.com for more videos like this one, and you can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you click on the little button in the lower right-hand corner of your screen right now, you'll instantly become a subscriber. Thanks for watching.